You know those little game jam games you like make for an event or something like that? Well, what if you could earn like $10,000 just from that game? I'm not talking about like building it into a full game or something like that, but just off that one game. That's kind of what happened to me, and it's a really fascinating story, and I thought I'd tell you a little bit about it. I've always been really passionate about building communities online, and what I thought I'd do is I'd try to build my own, and I really wanted to build a mature and wholesome community. I had a few before then, and they weren't unfortunately that mature and wholesome, and so I really wanted to focus on getting really mature and wholesome people into an awesome community. So what I thought is, well, what if I create like a YouTube channel and I get people to come in to my game? But I thought, you know, well, I figure Minecraft is so saturated and there's so many of these games are just super saturated. I like a really wholesome community. That's when I came across a game called Wildlands. Wildlands was an absolute gem. It was a beautiful game. It was a relaxing game. And I promise you, the most wholesome people on planet Earth played that game. And there was a lot of hype around it. It was low poly, but it was kind of like Minecraft. So, you know, triangles rather than squares. And it was really cool. And we really enjoyed the game an absolute ton. Sorry, give me one sec. We really enjoyed the game an absolute ton, and we built an awesome community on it, but it started really, really difficult. So when it launched, it was, you know, it launched a fanfare. It was, people were very excited about it, but there were major bugs, and this is one of the reasons I actually ended up building this community, is because of the major bugs we had over there. But basically, we would lose all of our progress when playing every single day. Like, we'd have like a daily wipe on our servers. It was absolutely brutal. Talk about early access troubles, right? This game had it. Like, just imagine you make a Lego castle every day and somebody like stamps on it with their foot. That's what this was every single day. A terrible place to build a community. But the people who stayed, now they were the most patient people on the face of the earth, because they were able to put up with that and love the game for what it was. I mean, talk about the power of the gaming community itself, right? To stick through something like that and to keep going. But, you know, as time faded and as there were a few updates and as the development made some not so smart decisions, basically things started to peter out over time. And how do I say this? Yeah, stuff. How does this lead to me actually, you know, with that game and earning all that money for that game and so forth, and tons of disclaimers with that later. But basically, you know, I built this community, and it was dying very quickly, because the game itself, the game it was based on, was dying very quickly, you know. And if you know anything about gaming communities, when the game that the gaming community is based on dies, then like the community splits up and it all breaks apart typically, because people go to different games. People have like a variety of different passions and you can't keep them together. So my strategy the whole time had been, you know, make this YouTube channel, build an awesome community out of it. But there was one more thing I didn't tell you about. So I was betting on this game, making it big, right? So how do I say this? I saw that actually many of the well-known YouTubers out there, they weren't super talented people necessarily. They were just in the right place at the right time. They got in early, just before things took off, and they became the go-to source for something, right? And so I thought what I would do is I would model everything after that, right? And see if I could give that a try and build a community off of that channel. That was my big goal. That was my big hope. But there was a lot of problems. So again, we were losing our progress on a regular basis. Now, this is something that could be helpful for those of you who are game devs out there. You know, they built their entire networking structure, it seems to be, this is hearsay, integrated with Photon Unity networking, right? And Photon Unity networking just didn't work for an open world game like they had in mind. So what they had to do, or what they ended up doing from my understanding, is they actually got network programmers, like contractors, to help them out. Now, I've built a couple of things in the past, and I know that if you work with contractors to build anything significant, they have a really good incentive to like not really fix everything, because they're the people that get paid when things are broken. They have a reverse incentive. It's just not a good thing to depend on contractors, and I think they found that out the hard way, because they needed to start recruiting a networking team from the ground up. And so we're talking about years of delay. Anyway, in the meantime, they built some really cool tools. Now, some of these tools had been started much earlier, but to build games within the game, right? So you can build your own cool experiences and whatever. One of the problems with this tool is that Steam Sync had a save issue. I'm not saying it was Steam's fault. All I'm saying is I was building stuff in the game, and the moment I closed the application, the stuff I built would disappear. So this wasn't like the castles I was talking about earlier, because it was a building game. This was like anything you would do in this editor to make your own game. So just imagine you make a Unity game, you're done, you push save, you exit, it's all gone. I went through that many painful times. And I would spend whole days making them, and I just didn't know what was going on. I couldn't figure it out. It just kept deleting all my stuff, and I didn't know what was going on. And it seemed to be random. Like, sometimes it would delete your stuff, and sometimes not. Very frustrating, as you can imagine. But eventually, I got one single game out there. And that game was like a city roleplay style game. It was kind of meant to be a server more than anything, where people would like play different roles of shopkeeper and stuff like that. They could sell to each other. It was a cool community idea. Everybody had like a trade and they could trade with each other and sell stuff to each other. But unfortunately, that didn't work out because, well, the servers were really laggy. There were so many problems with this. And in the end, I ended up just giving up and putting that. This was like my last hurrah. I would put this on the store. They had like a store where you could download assets. I would put this whole thing up and just, that was it. There were very few people coming to our weekly events anymore. Sometimes it was just me, and I would prepare and I would ask everybody to come on down, and nobody was interested anymore. And so it was seemingly the beginning of the end. But there would be something that happens that changed everything. After all that happened, and that final week in which I was just about to give up, I was like, okay, I'm done. The dream is dead. It's over. I'm going to walk away and figure out another way to build an awesome community. That was not the first time I had, messed up and didn't work out. But regardless, I had some fun doing it, and I was going to walk away. But that's when somebody from Tencent came into our community. Apparently, he had seen the game we had published. And now something was happening in the background that I had no idea about. So basically, Wildlands, it seems to me, was trying to sell Wildlands to Tencent. Tencent is the largest gaming company in the world, I believe, net revenue at that time. I don't know if it is, I think it still is today. But anyway, they were seeking to buy Wildlands or something like that. Anyway, a deal was being struck that we didn't fully know about as a community. And so one of the guys from Tencent came down and they saw our work. Now, I wasn't online at the time, but one of the people that had donated to the community was online. And because I put donors in the top right, they were like, he must be the guy that made it. And they got in touch with him and was like, can you make something? We're going to build this thing for a competition in China. We'd like to make this game big in China. Can you make something? Because you guys clearly know how to make something with this game. And he's like, well, I can try. And he was actually one of those like savants, right? He's like super capable, that guy. He's really awesome. Yeah, anyway, so he started. We started to just make it together for the fun of it. And it just gave us something, some reason to come together as a community. And what happened is that we started to make this Game Jam game. So I've got to mention that what we were building at first wasn't a game. It was actually just a build, and it was like this amazing castle, right? And this castle was a ton of work, and there were tons of issues with Wildlands at the time. It was so hard to build anything, but we were building this massive castle together as a community, and it was just a lot of fun to do it. And I can't show you that castle, but there's another castle I'll have in the background just to give you an idea. The castle we actually ended up building was much bigger, but we were building, and we were having a lot of fun building. We were doing it together. Unfortunately, for the guy that I was talking about, who's actually really good at what he does, it was a little bit too stressful for him. So what ended up happening is I ended up becoming the leader of that group. So he was leading it at first, but because it was a little bit stressful for him, he stepped back and stepped back from the game entirely. I think he had a few too many crashes, a few too many bugs. We lost people, and he stepped back. And I became kind of a project leader for it. And I wasn't a great artist. That's one of the things, is I never really was good at any of this stuff. I liked game ideas. I like to put game ideas in there. And anyway, so they were building it, and I was doing all the menial stuff like painting all the walls and stuff like that. But I was bringing the energy and the excitement and getting everybody together to do this. And what ended up happening is we impressed them, and they invited us to participate in what would be their initial game jam. This was the big moment. They were going to do something really big, and I'll show you. I actually have this in our sign-up form for our team. We have what we did together. Here's the first one. This is the actual event here. It still has its page. We won. We started to make games for this, right? And they had multiple categories. It was going to be a $30,000 competition. So yeah, Tencent wanted to make the game really big in China, and they started by doing some massive competitions, and they would invite us to be part of those competitions. This was the actual page for the competition I'm looking at behind me here, and there was a massive $30,000 competition that they had put up. They're like, okay, we're gonna make this thing massive in China, and we're gonna make this competition. And they invited us down to it. And the team said, okay, well, why don't we make something for this competition? And so we worked together, and we started building this city that I will show you. Like, I'll show you behind me, the city that we ended up building together. So there were two categories. One was for builds, and one was for games. And that says builds and that says games. So construction, I think it is in the direct translation, and this one is games is the direct translation, if I understand correctly. Anyway, so these two categories we had, and we started building some stuff. We had lots of fun building this stuff. Now, we had no idea, you know, were there going to be tons of people from China? I'm sure $30,000 goes a long way in China. Were there going to be tons of people, or was it going to be mostly just us? I assumed that, you know, this sort of competition would bring a lot of people in, but we worked really, really hard, and we kept at it. And I'll show you some of the builds we did right here in the background. We had so much fun with them, and we actually ended up making a game also. So there was the games category and the builds category. This is the games category back here, and yeah, you could shoot these different targets and stuff like that. We scripted it all in the engine. And during this time, I should mention, there were a lot of people coming and going from the team, because a lot of people would get burned out of Wildlands very quickly. And so I was desperately holding things together, even though it was cool to be part of this. So the people who we started with weren't the people who we necessarily continued with. Yeah, we just kept it going, and we kept it going forward. Yeah. So we tried and we tried, and eventually we ended up winning in builds in that competition. We were blown away that we had the privilege of winning. I'll actually show you here. The build right here, you can see the words. I'll make myself disappear for a moment so you can see it. It is people first. You see it there. We won that one. We also ended up winning this one right here, which was a game that we had made together. So games and builds we won in together as a team. And it was awesome to work together as hobbyists and win in the competition. We had so much fun with it, but because it was a massive prize competition, we were early and we did well together. We just decided to all pitch in and like do it together rather than compete with each other. We absolutely nailed it. And so we won $3,000 for our first place in builds for the 10-set competition, and for games we got first place in games, and we won $6,000 for that one. But we actually won some runner-up prizes too. I can't remember how many, because we submitted a bunch of games. This is one of them we submitted right here. This was by that guy who had given up. This was another one we had submitted. This was another one we had submitted. We submitted a bunch of games to this thing. So we won on multiple levels throughout this whole thing, and we had a lot of fun with it. So yeah, so it went really, really well. We won a whole bunch of prizes. And this one also we submitted. The far one, yeah, we submitted that one, and we won for that one too. So we did a lot. We were like, we're going for the clean sweep. We're gonna go for every prize in this thing, and we just did it together, and it was just a whole lot of fun. So there it was, our foundational moment, the thing that made us exist as a group. We had proved that we could do it, but there were even greater things in store for us in the future. And I'm going to share in my next video how we actually got 500,000 people to play one of the experiences we released all together. I'm going to leave that video right here for you guys to enjoy. I hope you guys will enjoy it an absolute ton. Click the card up there if it doesn't show up in the middle of the screen here. Click the card up there if you'd like to be a part of it. Now, this team exists today. We started, I think it was 2018. We're still going to this day, and yeah, we would love to have you be part of everything we are doing. You can join us at p1om.com/tour. We're a group of people. We are the same, fundamentally same group of people at our core, at our DNA. We're hobbyists doing things for the sake of doing what we can do together, and we're splitting up all the benefits between us. So with those past prizes, for example, we won a whole bunch of funds, and like we just split it up between us. A lot of people donated also to the community to make like the community happen. So it was just an awesome thing. We had a lot of fun doing it together. So yeah, so join us at p1om.com/tour if you'd like to make games with us and find out what can be done when a large group of hobbyists come together to build something bigger than they could build alone. Check it out there.